Marshall Gimple. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Today I'm wearing a dark blue suit, a blue shirt and a yellow tie to honor the flag of Ukraine. I have a beard on my face, not much hair on my head, and I'm wearing glasses. Welcome to First Unitarian Church, where our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and pursue the common good. We welcome you in your brokenness and in your wholeness, no matter who you have been, who you are, or who you are becoming. We greet you today with love. I'd like to extend a special welcome to everyone who is watching us on YouTube this morning. During a prelude, please introduce yourself in the comments and let us know where you're joining us from. If you're in OKC, what neighborhood are you in? Or if you're elsewhere, what city are you in? One note about our service today. I just want to acknowledge that this is a very joy-focused service, which might feel discordant given the various events occurring at home and abroad. But taking the time for intentional joy is life-affirming, and as well as a form of resistance and persistence. It is in that spirit that we offer this service. And now the prelude prepares us for worship.
Good morning, my name is Tim Atkins. I serve as your Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration. I am both big and tall, wearing a yellow shirt in honor of Ukraine with rainbow-colored glasses. We light our chalice here in our building in Midtown, Oklahoma City, a land that was home to indigenous peoples, including the Apache, Caddo, and Wichita, a land that was taken from the Creek and Seminole and other removed and relocated peoples. Because we are a multi-platform congregation, our chalice is also lit today in 17 other locations around Metro Oklahoma City. We light the chalice as a symbol of our sacred time together. The burning chalice represents the light of reason and science, the warmth of loving community, the cleansing heat of justice, and the flame of hope.
Welcome again, especially to those who are joining us online this morning. Todos son bienvenidos aquí. I'm Reverend Diana Davies, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. For those who are blind, visually impaired, or joining us online with low internet bandwidth, I am a white woman in my 50s with long gray hair. I wear glasses, and today I'm wearing a blue clergy robe and a stole with green leaves on it. Today is a joyful day. Here in Oklahoma City, the sun is out, the sky is blue, it's warm, the daffodils are in bloom. COVID new case numbers and hospitalizations continue to drop. And today we're celebrating with coffee and lemonade and snacks outside in the courtyard after the service. And at the end of the service, we will once again join our voices in song. We're especially happy today to finally have the opportunity to formally welcome the new members who joined our congregation during the pandemic. But even as we rejoice, we remember that there is horrible suffering in the world. And we light a candle of peace today for the people of Ukraine. We especially hold in our hearts the people of the city of Mariupol, whose suffering is unimaginable. Please join me in a moment of silence, and if you pray, I invite you to offer a silent prayer for peace. Amen. Amen. Peace, peace, peace. Mir. And I'm very happy that we have our bell choir with us to play some beautiful music this morning.
was 23, back in 2005, I joined my first church ever, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta. Now, I grew up totally unchurched in South Georgia, which was not a very popular experience back in the late 90s. I was the only atheist in my public high school that was at least public about it, for example. I had a very negative impression of church because all of my experiences had been with that lovely conservative fundamentalist variety that we know all too well here in Oklahoma. I swore I would never go to a church, much less become a member of one, and much less work for one. And suffice to say, anyone who knew me in high school is floored that I work for a church now. When I graduated college from Georgia Tech, I needed a community. Most of my friends were moving away from Atlanta, and where do you go to meet a community of people? Well, in the South, the answer is you go to a church. But come on, me, church? So I took the online Belief-O-Matic quiz. It's still there if you Google it. And it popped up Unitarian Universalism, 100%. I said any religion that agreed with me 100% at the time clearly could not be a real religion. So I held off a year, I took it again, it popped up UU again, and this time I decided to Google it. It turns out a friend of mine had grown up Unitarian and just never told anyone about it. And I found that there were a few congregations in Atlanta and decided to go to the biggest one there, as there was more likely to be young adults there. So the first week, the service was about how tolerance isn't enough. We need to love each other. And that week, I got signed up for the 20s and 30s young adult group. And their event that week was a trivia night at my favorite gay-owned restaurant in Atlanta. I had found my people. Over the summer, I took the new to UU class, and in the fall, I was teaching in the religious education program. I decided to join the congregation in February 2006. Specifically, February 19th, 2006 was my joining date. Now, I only remember that because I used to have a UU-themed blog back in the day, and I wrote about it. And the night before I joined, I wrote about the emotions I was going through. I'm going to quote to you from that piece I wrote. Nervousness. I'm joining a flippin' church. This would have been so out of character for me in June of last year. This joining doesn't seem like a big deal on one hand. Nothing's changing, really, other than me needing to pay with a check instead of cash in the collection. But on the other hand, it's a huge deal. I'm going to be dedicating my life to 1UCOKC, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, to a spiritual cause. I've never done that before. Will this be a decision I look back on in 20 years and think, geez, was that when my life changed? Was that one of those distinct points where I knew I was a changed person, knew that I belonged to a community, and decided to find happiness instead of expecting it to be delivered? Awe. I'm becoming part of a living, breathing body of people who have been doing this for quite some time now. People who are 4 times older than me and 4 times younger than me. People who work at the CDC, people who are homemakers, all united in a liberal faith. And most of us trying to figure out what the heck that means anyway. A place where it's okay to be confused about religion. It's even expected, and that's okay. Belonging. I never knew before a half a year ago that there were others who were dealing with the same religious and spiritual issues I was dealing with, and had a liberal, somewhat organized faith. I literally felt lost when my best friends found a job in Savannah and moved away, a month after I moved into my own apartment for the first time. I felt terribly lonely and found UUCA the week before they moved, and thank God I did. I don't know where I would be already if it weren't for the loving, caring community I found for myself. I found the acceptance I didn't feel like I deserved. And joy. I'm going to have newfound friends there cheering me on, even sitting right next to me as I join. I just might have a contingent of my 7th graders from RE there to cheer me on. I'm going to have a congregation cheering me on and welcoming me. Acceptance. Is that the joy I've been missing in my life since I can recall? I'm doing the unthinkable. I'm joining a church. Unbelievable. Well, suffice to say, 20 years later, it was one of the most impactful decisions of my life. After all, it led me to my career, no, my calling as a religious educator, has brought me all over the country to follow my call. All because I chose to become a member of my local UU church. So to all of those joining today, welcome. An important part of our religious tradition stems from the Cambridge platform that the Pilgrims worked on the way over here to North America. And its focus is about membership. People have to choose to be a part of our congregations, of our Unitarian Universalist faith. We want you to make a well-reasoned and faithful decision to intentionally join our churches. And this process today, our new member joining ceremony, is part of what literally makes us Unitarian Universalists throughout history. And now, let us begin our new member ceremony.
Today, we welcome into our community 8 new members who have chosen to make a commitment to this congregation by signing our membership book. Some of these joined while we were meeting virtually, and we never had a chance to welcome them properly in a service. And our very newest member joined us just last week. So we're going to invite Loriana Lee Knapp, who is the chair of our membership committee, to get us started. You can adjust it.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Loriana Lee Knapp. I am chair of our membership committee. I am an African-American woman with her hair up, short, about 5 foot. I'm wearing a green dress with a flower top. Today, I'm about to read Reverend Diana stuff. Okay, our newest members are Connie Carr, Kate Elliott, Abraham Figueroa, Marshall Jones, Victoria Wilson, Zell Scott, Carol Stower, and Ashley Thomas. Connie and Kate have not had a chance to sign the membership book yet, so we get to witness as they do that right now. So Connie Carr has just signed. And Kate Elliott is signing now. The moment when we enter into covenant with one another is one of the holiest moments of our congregational life. New members, please recite in unison the words written in your order of service. Do you have that with you? Our congregational life coordinator, Nathan Boone, will be reading along with you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Nathan Boone. I'm the Congregational Life Coordinator. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm 6'3", wearing glasses, white, and a gray polo. All right, new members, if you will read along with me. We enter this faith with hope and possibility in our hearts, pledging to participate in and support the ministries of this church. We covenant to remain true to the spirit of love that flows through this church and guides us. We seek your welcome as we join you in this faith.
And now all members of the congregation, please rise in body or in spirit. And please read the words printed in your order of service or appearing on your screen. We welcome you as once we were welcomed ourselves. We seek to be open and inclusive, respecting your inherent worthy and your ideas and your vision, in times when it is easy and in times when it is difficult. We seek to be supportive, not only when you reach out encourage to us, but when we need us to reach out to you. In return, we ask that you recognize our humanity. We will not always live up to our ideals, and when we fall short, we invite you to stay in relationship with us and help us more fully bring alive the spirit of love. We welcome you as equal members of this congregation, of this faith, and of our shared spiritual journey.
You may be seated. Would the children and youth of our congregation please rise in body or in spirit? Children and youth. And please repeat after me. New members of First Unitarian Church, we welcome you. Together, we are the future. You may be seated. Thank you.
It is my great honor to welcome the newest members of our community. Please give them a warm welcome. And everyone may be seated now. And please remember, please join us after the service out in the courtyard. You can go into Daniel Hall and pick up some coffee or lemonade and treats, and then go out to the courtyard and welcome all of our new members. Every Sunday, we take an offering. Since 2002, all of the cash and designated checks from that offering have gone directly to external nonprofit organizations doing good work, our Change for Change partners. For the month of March, our Change for Change partner is Friends for Folks. Friends for Folks is a program that pairs rescued dogs with inmates at Oklahoma's Lexington and Mabel Bassett Correctional Centers. The inmates train the dogs to be companion animals for people with disabilities. If you're here in the building today, you can leave your offering in the plates as you exit, and you can also make your gift by sending a check to First Unitarian. Just write Change for Change in the memo line, or make an online payment through our website, 1UC.org. And would you please join me in clapping as we sing out to our children, youth, and teachers. Here we go. Help out with singing this? Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. And one of our newest members, Marshall Jones, has an annual giving testimonial for us this morning.
Hello, my name is Marshall Jones. My pronouns are he, him. I have dirty blonde hair. I'm about 6 feet tall. Blue eyes, and I'm wearing a white shirt with a jean jacket. I was asked to speak on why I give and why I joined the Unitarian Church, and I am nervous to do so, so please forgive me if I stumble over some of these words. Why do I give? You know, as someone who's in his mid-20s, I have student debt, and my wife and I are looking to buy a house, and it's hard to want to give a lot of extra money when we're trying to save as much as we can. I also spent most of my life in an emotionally abusive relationship with the religious community of my youth. And I frankly don't trust many churches or religious communities. And I identify more with the symbolic character of Satan than I do with the God of my youth. So why would I join a church? And why would I give? And I give for the same reason I joined this community. I want to grow as a person. My generation is leading the shift away from religious communities. In a 2017 Lifeway research survey, 66% of Americans between 23 and 30 has said that they stopped attending a church on a regular basis. And I think we're tired of dogmas and hypocrisy, the need for many religious communities to be right instead of doing what is right. But I think that's what makes the Unitarian Church different. I think that this community offers hope in a world of cynicism. I believe that we believe in fellowship instead of individualism. We believe in making an effort to do what is right instead of holding to our guns and choosing to just dig in. The work for a more just and equitable society can only be accomplished if we all work together, and it's communities like this that allow for that to happen. Victoria and I joined this church because this is a community that accepts and wants to heal. And as I work through my trauma and finding a way to be a part of a religious community again, I appreciate the fellowship that I've experienced so far and the fellowship that's to come. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Marshall. We are so happy to have you as a part of our community. This is Giving Sunday, and this is the Sunday when we ask all the members and friends of First Unitarian Community to make their financial pledge for the coming church year, which runs from July to June. For those of you who are newer to our congregation, I want to point out that we are a bit unusual as congregations go, as our weekly offerings go entirely to outside organizations. As a congregational faith community, we are entirely self-supported, without any financial support from a central denominational source. And in fact, part of our budget each year goes to give a gift to the Unitarian Universalist Association for the many services they provide to UU congregations around the world. That means that we are entirely dependent on your financial support. We are not a faith that requires a tithe. We don't expect you will give 10% of your earnings, nor do we have a minimum pledge. We only ask for you to give as you are able and as your mind, heart, and spirit require of you. If you have already made your pledge, and many of you already have, thank you. And if you haven't, I encourage you to do so today, so we can do the important work of developing a budget that the congregation will vote on at our annual meeting on June 5th. And if you're joining us online, you can find our online pledge form by going to our website and scrolling down to the annual giving box and look for the link to the online pledge form, or I believe the direct link to the form is being put in the chat. And if you're with us in the sanctuary, you'll find paper pledge forms by the collection plates on your way out. And on the back of your order of service, you will find a QR code, and that will take you directly to the online pledge form. For right now, though, we have our choir that will sing hymn 404, What Gift Can We Bring?
What
unprovoked war in Europe, deep divisions and distrust in our society, attempts to criminalize the efforts of parents seeking to obtain medical care for their children, discussions about banning books, all of these things going on in the world. And I want to talk to you today about joy. Really? Really? You see, I come to this season of pledging with a sense of gentle joy. It's a joy rooted in the very existence of a community like this, a faith tradition like this, in a place and time like this. I marvel at this quirky, complex faith, which doesn't ask me to leave a part of myself at the door when I enter. It doesn't ask me to sacrifice my head for my heart, or vice versa, but rather to hold both reason and wonder in a complex, dynamic relationship. It doesn't require me to subscribe to a dogma as a means of compelling my compliance, but rather to question, to challenge, to experiment, and to map my own spiritual path. A faith which is without creed, and which yet insists that it has principles and is explicit about those principles by which it operates, and which requires and demands that those principles be translated into action in myriad ways every day in every congregation. The very thought that a place like that exists fills me with joy, and that joy would persist even if my spiritual journey took me someplace else tomorrow. Even then, I would be comforted and uplifted just knowing that UUs were alive and active in the world. So I approach this time of pledging as a celebration and an affirmation. I think it's appropriate that it occurs in the spring, and this is the first day of spring, which is a time of rejuvenation, of new life, of flowering. I also approach it as something other than giving, in the classic sense of altruistically giving something away to someone else. Even though I use the word giving, in my mind, that's not really what I'm doing when I pledge to the church. I'm actually sharing some of what I have and contributing to a community of which I am a member. Whatever is accomplished with my pledge, whatever ministry it supports, benefits me in one way or another. I also readily admit that I pledge in part from a sense of obligation, a joyful obligation. I've heard and read statements in this church and other settings that we should give from a sense of joy rather than obligation, as though these two things are in direct opposition to one another. I think this is a false dichotomy. I see no reason why an obligation I voluntarily incurred by becoming a member of an organization I sought out shouldn't be fulfilled with gladness. Of course I want to contribute to this church. I belong to it. I'm also delighted that I have the wherewithal to give something back to an organization that gives so much to me. Now, there are a number of considerations which motivate my pledging this year. I pledge in memory and in honor of those we have lost over the past 2 years. I pledge with heartfelt thanks to this beloved community, many of whom, unbeknownst to you, I suspect, have become my teachers, my mentors, and my role models. Would that you had a more apt pupil. I give in gratitude and admiration for all those Unitarian, Universalist, and UU leaders who have done and continue to do so much to shape the conscience of this country. I pledge an expectation that in the near term, we will continue to live out our mission, to explore the eternal, to nurture our community, to pursue the common good in the wider community. And I pledge in hope, a confident hope, that we will grow, certainly in numbers and resources, but in other ways too. Hope that we will grow in wisdom and wonder, that we will grow in conversation and covenant, that we will grow in listening, in learning, in laughter, and in loving kindness. Most especially, though, I pledge, in spite of, and perhaps because of these times, with a quiet, deep, and abiding joy.
Would you please join me in a spirit of prayer or meditation? Spirit of life, source of love, we gather as community in this space, both in this building and online, both in the present and in memory of the past, with hopes and fears for the future, with heartbreak for the state of our world. We join our hearts in prayer or in meditation, not because we believe that a supernatural being or force will change the world on our behalf at our request, but because we understand that only we can change, and that change must begin within us and between us. We come together in community to hold one another up, to refuel our weary hearts, to make music together, to speak together, to mourn together, to cry together. In this sacred space, then, let us lift upon our hearts the places, the beings, the communities, and the individuals who are suffering or struggling with loss, with illness, with violence, with all forms of oppression. In silence, let us remember them now. And as we mourn together, we also make space for joy and gratitude. And again, I invite you to lift upon your hearts the gifts for which you are grateful today. For all these we say thank you. May there be peace in our hearts. May there be peace in our community. May there be peace in our world. May it be so. Amen.
There are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life, I've loved them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you, and these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new, though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. In my life, I love you more.
Of the things that divide us, there are politics, religion, and there's a children's book, The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. At various times in my life, I have loved it and I have hated it. And I expect many of you may love or hate it as well. So what is this book about? Well, there's a little boy who loves an apple tree, and the tree loves the little boy. The beginning of the book is idyllic, with the boy climbing the tree's branches and resting in her shade, and they are both happy. But the boy goes away for a while, and when he comes back, he's a young man, and now he doesn't want to play. He wants money. The tree offers her apples to the young man, and he takes them all to sell at the market. And because she still loves the young man in her heart, still that boy, she still loves him very much, the tree is happy. Now, the next time that the man comes to the tree, he is an adult, and now what he wants is a family, and he wants a house for that family. Well, the tree offers her branches for the man to build a home, and he takes them and he leaves. And again, we are told the tree is happy. A long time passes before the man returns, and this time he is getting old. He is very tired. And he wants nothing more than to escape. He wants a boat to sail away on. So the tree gives the old man her trunk. He turns it into a boat, and he leaves the tree alone again. And this time we're told that the tree is happy, but not really. When the man finally returns, the tree apologizes that she has nothing more to give him. And he responds that he wants nothing more than a place to sit. And so the tree offers her stump to him as a seat. And that's how the story ends. And we are told that the tree is happy. But the man, who in the drawings hasn't smiled since the beginning of the book, when he was still a boy in love with the tree, he now looks very sad. The end. There are so many reasons to hate this book. For many of us, it brings back memories of a relationship or relationships or a time in our lives when we gave too much to the point of hurting ourselves. Silverstein himself said that it was a story about a relationship between two people where one takes and one gives. A feminist analysis highlights the way that the tree, whose pronouns are she, her, gives everything she has to the point of self-destruction to a privileged and self-absorbed he. Often the book is described as a story about parenthood, which is really awful. If we read the tree as a representation of some selfless martyr parent, and the boy as her ungrateful, constantly demanding child. But there are plenty of people who love the giving tree. Many Protestant Christians see the tree as an allegory for the cross, upon which the Savior is crucified for the sake of sinful humans. Some readers are moved to tears by the story, finding in it a heart-rending description of the lost joys of childhood and the way that adulthood strips away our connection with nature. More recently, the giving tree has reemerged as a parable of climate change and capitalism run amok. The boy is just a metaphor for a culture bent on extracting all it can get before it goes on to pillage the next lush Eden. The marvelous thing about this little book is that it holds space for all of these interpretations. But I want to set aside this fictional tree and focus for a moment on a real giving tree, or on real trees that do, in fact, give. Research by scientists and authors like Suzanne Simard and Peter Wohlleben has given light to the fact that trees live in community. They literally give life to one another. They do this through chemicals that they release and that are transmitted through the air from one tree to another, and through a vast network of fungal connections called the mycorrhizal network, or some say the wood wide web. When trees are attacked by insects, for example, they release chemicals that are sensed by neighboring trees and that allow those trees to respond by generating their own chemical defenses. But more amazing than this airborne warning system is what's happening underground. Under the soil, trees' roots are infiltrated by fungus. And the two life forms don't compete, but they live in symbiosis. The tree delivers food to the fungus, and the fungus increases the tree's absorption of water and minerals through a vast fungal network. And this network connects countless trees together, including trees of different ages and even different species. Through the network, older trees send water and sugar to the younger trees that aren't yet able to sustain themselves. When neighboring trees are struggling, other trees increase the flow of nutrients to them. Birch trees that grow tall and leafy in the summer send carbon to the little fir trees that would otherwise be shaded out. And in the winter, those same firs send carbon back to the now leafless birch trees. But this giving goes beyond just reciprocity. Douglas fir trees are experiencing mass die-off through blight related to climate change. Ponderosa pines, on the other hand, can tolerate higher temperatures, and they are migrating north as other trees decline. Scientists recently found that dying Douglas firs were transferring food to their ponderosa pine neighbors through the fungal network. But why? There can be no hope for reciprocity for a gift given while dying. Maybe the furs are just leaking their reserves. Maybe the fungal network is hedging its bets and seeing what must be done to keep the fungus itself alive. But maybe the fir trees are not seeing trees, but the forest. Maybe it's not about survival of the fittest. Maybe it's about helping your neighbor trees so that the forest can survive. This is the kind of giving I want to celebrate. A giving that is not bleeding, a giving that is not martyrdom or based in social expectation or pained obligation, a giving that isn't enabling of someone else's lack of investment, a giving that isn't transactional, I'll give you this if you give me that, although it is mutually beneficial. I want to celebrate a giving that sees beyond the trees for the forest, that is bigger than my personal likes and dislikes, that is about helping my neighbors so that hope can survive. Instead of the giving tree in Shel Silverstein's book, I want to emulate real giving trees. And that is what I want for this congregation. I want this church to function as a prophetic voice, speaking truth about what is toxic in our world, lifting up a warning signal, but also spreading the good news of human potential, the saving grace of community, the wonder of nature, the power of justice, the beauty of diversity, and the critical importance of every single voice. I want us to give generously of our own resources so that the younger generations can thrive. I want us to give to a future we can't yet see and reach beyond these walls to people we don't even know. This congregation is a forest. A forest is different from an orchard. An orchard is just a lot of the same. A forest is a lot of difference. Different individuals living not just in a state of coexistence, but interdependence, relying on one another, feeding one another, helping one another get through the hard times, helping each other grow. We give so that this community can be sustained, so that this forest can go on breathing life to a gasping world.
Said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Now I don't know if I believe it's true, but I know like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes a sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. I don't know if I can change for the better, but because I knew you, I have been changed for good. It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind of the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for. But then I guess we know there's blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a comet blown from orbit as it passes a sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better. Because I knew you. Because I knew you. Because I knew you. I have been changed for good.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of love and community which burns in our hearts.
Before we end our service today, I have a quick announcement. This week, as part of our COVID safety protocol, we continue to clear rooms in our building to ensure that ventilation levels are adequate before we open them to use by children and other members of our community. So if you would like to assist with this effort, I invite you after the service to exit through these side doors, and you'll be directed to one of the 2 spaces we'll be testing today. The 2 adult spaces, the sustainability living room and the meditation room, which are in the basement off of Corley Commons, and those are accessible by elevator, or the nursery and preschool rooms that are all the way past the church offices. These are the last rooms. We've done it after this. We'll ask you to chat in those spaces for about a half hour while we test the CO2 levels. And then everyone, including our children and youth, coming from their RE classes will be invited to join us outside in the courtyard for some coffee, water, and snacks to welcome our newest members. And we invite you to go into, because it's a little windy out there, we invite you to go into Daniel Hall to pick up your drinks and your snacks, and you'll also find some wonderful artwork there that has been done by our children in religious education, and the funds raised will go to support Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and their work in particular to assist refugees and the situation in Ukraine. So go on in, get some coffee, get a snack, take a look at the art, buy some art, and then join us outside. In just a moment, we'll be singing our first congregational hymn together in over 2 years. Singing is a higher risk activity, so it's really important that you keep your mask on at this time. And if you aren't comfortable, you're welcome to leave the sanctuary right after the benediction. And now, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. Our service is coming to an end. Now may we take the gifts we have received from one another, the gifts of love and caring, of vulnerability and honesty, of shared sadness and shared joy, and share them with a wider world. Go, knowing that the world is in great need of the gift that only you can provide. Your passion, your commitment, your listening, and more than anything else, your love. Our hymn is number 331 in the gray hymnal, Life is the Greatest Gift of All. Diane will start us off.